Are buyers actually back to paying $400,000 over asking? I'll dive into that in a second, and then I'll get into the latest home prices for the City of Toronto for week ending February the 1st, 2023. Bidding wars, they're back. Lots of agents are promoting bidding wars are back, bidding wars are back, and the idea is that buy now, sell now, bidding wars are back, great opportunity. I'm not here to tell you that this is the right time to buy or to sell, but I do want to give a little bit more insight into bidding wars. A lot of people that are promoting bidding wars, there's no real context to it. So let me explain the way I see it, what's really happening right now. Yes, lots of neighborhoods across the City of Toronto, across the GTA, are experiencing bidding wars, multiple offers. Most of them are manufactured, meaning the list price is put so low that it attracts a lot of eyeballs, and there's a date set for when offers are going to be reviewed. That's manufactured. Other times, it's a great price. There's no date for offer, but there's so many people that like it that even just one or two or three people putting in an offer, next thing you know, there's multiple offers. When we talk about bidding wars, for a lot of people, they think paying way more than market value. That's how it was a year ago. Property sold at this price, a new property gets listed at a lower price but sells for way more than the one that sold just 2 days earlier. That was then. Bidding wars back then, if you were a seller, you knew you were getting way more than the previous home sold for in that neighborhood. You were scoring big time. And if you were a buyer, you knew you were outbidding everybody else and prepared to spend way more on a property than anyone has in that neighborhood. Today, bidding wars are operating a little bit different. Buyers are not necessarily paying more than the previous sale, but you got to look at it many times from the seller's perspective. Many of these sellers have been stuck in a situation where their monthly payments have gone through the roof on paying their mortgage. They absolutely need a quick sale. And one of the quickest way to do it, put the price really low, attract a lot of buyers, and there's a lot of buyers back on the market now than pre-Christmas. So attract a lot of buyers, and in 1 week have an offer night and boom, you're sold. Stop the bleeding, house is sold, and the seller's in a better position. They got rid of their house. Those are some of the sellers right now. There's other sellers that have been on the market for months at the price that they want. It's not happening. Very few buyers are coming in. The market seems slow to them. So they cancel that listing. They relist lower. They're tired of being on the market. They want the sale quick, fast. Price is low, lots of buyers come in, boom, in 1 week they're sold. In most cases, the sale prices are around what a previous home sold for in that area. They're not necessarily getting way more money. So bidding wars today are very different than bidding wars a year ago. We were just following a property for one of our clients. They had the price. It was obvious the price was really low compared to what other properties recently sold for in that area. We were watching this property. It was offer night. They had 8 offers. The property sold, and it sold at a little bit less than what a previous similar home had sold for. But that seller bought that property a year ago, and the final sale price was $300,000 less than what they bought it for a year ago. So sellers are not making off like bandits like they did a year ago. The whole point of multiple offers today is just to get the quick sale. We're not seeing the huge increase in dollar values versus the previous sale. I just want to put all that into context. There's a lot going on in the market, a lot of different situation. It has intensified, but that doesn't mean people need to pay way more than what a previous home has sold for. If If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. Let's get into the numbers. If you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, we've made it really simple. Below this video in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you. This way, I'll know ahead of time and I'll make sure my schedule's organized so we can talk about whatever's on your mind. Let's get into the numbers. I have here for the city of Toronto. Now, before I get into my weekly numbers like I do every week, this is the monthly breakdown. January 2023, and I'm going back by month. The furthest back on this chart I go is January 2019. Now this is just for the city of Toronto, and it's only for detached properties. So let's look at sales first. January 23, 318 detached properties were sold. And when we look back, that is the lowest January as far as sales go since pre-1996. Why am I saying pre-1996 and I don't give you a specific date? Well, the Toronto Real Estate Board's stats only go back to 1996. We're not able to see further based on the Toronto Real Estate stats. So pre-1996, this is the lowest January on record for going back minimum 27 years now. So 318 detached properties are sold. Let's look at average sold price. For January 2023, for detached properties, the average sold price was $1,486,000. A year ago, average sold price was $1,887,000. So in 1 year, we have a $400,000 difference in average sold price for detached properties. You look at the arrows I got set up for each January. You see the black here, each January. Well, if we're going this way, January to January this year, we have a 21% difference in, average sold price this year is 21% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. But lots of people thinking prices are coming down, coming down. Well, let's look at it going the other way. If we want to get to January 2019 prices, we need to drop 21% from where we are now, and then we'll be at January 2019 prices. If we drop 8%, we're going to be at January 2020 prices. There's a big difference between 2019 and 2020 when it comes to prices. That's the monthly overall breakdown. Looking at monthly months of inventory. January, December, November, we can see since October, months of inventory has been creeping up month after month. Average sold prices have been sloping down. Now, generally speaking, that's how it's supposed to work. Months of inventory is really the relationship of supply and demand. As months of inventory go up, prices tend to come down. If months of inventory come down, meaning it's tighter, less supply, more people are buying, prices tend to go up. That's in a normal, the way we would normally, it doesn't always behave that way, but this is really what we expect to happen. So months of inventory has been going up slightly. Prices over the last 4 or 5 months have been sloping down slightly. But that's looking at things on a monthly basis. I'm just going to bring you back again. Sales 1 month to the next, from December to January, pretty much the same, not much difference. There's only eight detached properties different. When we look at months of inventory, it's been creeping up 1 month to the next. Kind of looks like, well, from December we went into January, not a big difference. That's looking at it on a monthly basis. Let's see how things look like on a weekly basis. All of a sudden, different picture. So for week ending February the 1st, 111 detached properties were sold. But if we go back to the beginning of January, sales each week have been going up. So it seems like, wow, we're increasing in sales. We looked at the monthly chart and it kind of seems we went from one month to the next pretty much the same. Looking at a weekly basis, you can see the increase. You can see the average sold prices going up week after week since the beginning of January. Well, when we looked at January as a whole, it took the low, it took all of January, summer averaged it out, and it kind of, you know, 1 month goes into the next. It's not as you don't see the difference in changes that quickly, but on a weekly basis, you see it fast. So February 1st, 111 detached properties were sold. 25 of those were at $2 million or more. Average sold price is $1,632,000 for week ending February the 1st, 2023. Compared to last year, that's 22% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. And I've circled, this is basically all the month of January. Generally speaking, we're going to be, in most cases, 20 to the high 20% lower than where prices were a year ago at this time. Looking at the median price of $1,355,000, that's the blue line. Median price is 19% lower than where the median price was a year ago. And again, this is just for the city of Toronto, just for detached properties. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. And we can see that it is sloping down both for average price and for median price, and for the median price. And this chart goes back 3 months. So over the last 2.5, 3 months, average sold price of detached properties has been sloping down. It's looking at sales. Of the 111 that sold, 42% sold at list price or more. So there's some competition out there where, you know, before we were as low as 9% and 22%, but each week more and more properties are selling at list price or more. Listings, 201 were listing. If we look at the orange, which is this year, listings are going up slightly, not a lot, but slightly. Each week listings are increasing. Months of inventory. Now, if you recall, when we looked at the months of inventory, you know, 1 month went into the next. I think it was about 2.7 months of inventory for the month. Well, we started off in January 4.8, 4.3, but by the end of January, we were sitting at 1.9. There's a big difference between beginning of January and end of January. That's the whole story right there. Now for week ending February the 1st, we're at 1.5 months of inventory. This is why I prefer to look at the weekly numbers versus the monthly. The monthly averages out the whole month, and there can be huge differences from where we are at the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. And if you don't know those differences, you can get caught off guard if you're thinking of selling, if you're thinking of buying. This tells us more of where the market is today, as close as possible to today. A month averaging out doesn't really give you the proper data. So now we're sitting at 1.5 months of inventory for week ending February the 1st. Days on market is much lower than we've seen in a long time, now sitting at 19. And I've put the arrow here. Months of inventory is coming down aggressively. Average sold price is going up a little bit more aggressively. So here's a breakdown between West, Central, and East. Central Toronto up here. The green is West Toronto, and the red is East Toronto. East and West Toronto are a little bit closer right now than they normally are as far as average sold price go. We're going to start with West Toronto. 34 detached properties were sold. 4 of those were at $2 million or more. Average sold price is $1,390,000. $1,390,000 is 19% lower than where the average price was a year ago. The median price of $1,212,000 is 24% lower than where the median price was a year ago. The 4-week moving average, the dotted line, yeah, prices have been sloping down over the previous 3 months. But if we look at January to February, where we're just starting February, might be painting a slightly different picture, that prices are maybe starting to go the other way. Months of inventory for West Toronto for February the 1st sitting at 1.7. Months of inventory came down and flattened, and prices kind of doing the same thing right now. A third of the properties, 32% of the properties sold in West Toronto sold at list price or more. Here's Central Toronto. Look at the sales. We started off with January 11th, 9. Then each week it's been increasing. So for week ending February the 1st, 41 detached properties were sold. Still not a lot, but 41 were sold. 19 of those were at $2 million or more, which is a huge leap from the previous week where only 9 were sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price is up, sitting at $2,180,000. 2.18 is 24% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. And the median price of $1,876,000 is 22% lower. The 4-week moving average, it's a little bit up and down, and that's because of this December week ending 28 that kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. But I would say that average sold price has been sloping down over the last 3 months in Central Toronto. But months of inventory are coming down. Prices have been going up. Months of inventory for Central Toronto sitting at 1.8, and sold at list price or more, almost a third. 32% of the properties sold in Central Toronto are selling at list price or more. Here's East Toronto. 36 detached properties were sold. 2 of those were at $2 million or more. Average sold price sitting at $1,236,000, which is 22% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price is 21% lower than where the median price was a year ago. And prices, if we look at the dotted line for East Toronto, kind of gives the impression that maybe prices are sloping upward slightly in East Toronto. East Toronto would be East York, Beaches, Riverdale, Scarborough. That's East Toronto. Months of inventory. I put an exclamation mark here for East Toronto. Months of inventory for week ending February the 1st, sitting at 1. 1 month of inventory. Months of inventory have been coming down since we started the new year, sitting at 1. Days on market. Average days on market is as low as 11 now is the average. And months of average sold price has been going up. 64% of the properties sold in East Toronto are sold at list price or more. Very competitive right now in East Toronto. Here's a quick summary, and just to show months of inventory: 1.7, 1.8, 1, 11 days on market, 64% being sold at list price or more. Different pockets, different parts of the city are behaving differently. Overall, each week so far seems that the market is starting to intensify a bit. Here's semis, a snapshot. 30 semi-detached were sold. None of them were at $1,500,000 or more. Average sold price sitting at $1,075,000, which is 31% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price of $1,082,000 is 24% lower than where the median price was a year ago. Months of inventory for semis, similar story. Each week as we come into the new year, months of inventory has been dropping, now sitting at 1.2. Prices, though, have not continuously gone up when it comes to semi. Here's where sometimes the months of inventory and the way things should behave are not necessarily behaving that way in the market. But half of those semis, so 15 semis, sold at list price or more. Townhouses, it's so difficult just because the sample size. There's only 7 freehold townhouses that were sold, and it's really tough to get a handle on the numbers there just because the sample size is so low. But 7 sold. 2 of those were at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price of those semis is $1,226,000. That's 8% lower than last year's average sold price, and the median price of $1,081,000 for townhouses is 17% lower than where the median price was a year ago. Months of inventory for townhouses sitting at 2.3 months of inventory. Condos. The way I broke down Toronto detached by month, I'm going to start off with condos the same way before I get into the weekly numbers. So the black, that's every January going back to January 2019. Sales for January 2023, we sold 604 condo apartments for for month ending January 2023. That is the lowest January since January 2009. So those are the numbers there. It is a slow start for condos when it comes to January sales. Average sold price for January is $711,000. If we want to get back to January 2019 prices, $711,000 has to drop by 17%, and we will be at January 2019 condo prices. Months of inventory for January sitting at 4.1. The condo story is very different than the detached story. Condos months of inventory has been slightly going up each month on average, and therefore average sold prices are coming down each month. Here's the weekly breakdown. So for week ending February the 1st, 180 condos were sold. Now, if we go back just a few weeks and we start at the beginning of the year, we could see that sales are increasing every single week. So we could say, hey, things are picking up. When we look at the monthly numbers, it's kind of a little bit like, oh well, one month to the next, not a big change. But when you look at weekly, you could really see the difference from beginning of the month to the end of the month. So 180 were sold, 14 were sold at $1 million or more. Average sold price sitting at $714,000, which is 7% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price of $649 is 9% lower than where the median price was a year ago. And if we look back 2.5, 3 months, the 4-week moving average, both the average price and the median price are sloping downwards. Let's look at sales. Comparing to a year ago, the blue, that's a year ago. Those are the year ago sales. Huge difference between sales this year versus what we were selling last year. And of the 180, 24% sold at list price or more. Big difference, condo market versus the detached market. Listings, we're not so far off from what we were listing last year. And as far as condos available for sale, we have 2,049 active condo listings for midnight week ending February the 1st. Months of inventory for condos has been coming down actually. When we compared, when you saw the monthly chart, it showed that months of inventory was going up because it took December and it averages it out. When it averages out January, because we had the first week of January 2nd, we were really high with months of inventory. It kind of didn't show much of a change one month to the next. But the reality is we started way up here, but now we're sitting at 2.6 months of inventory. So months of inventory has been coming down for condos. Prices been sloping down slightly. Here's a quick summary of all the months of inventory. Now the red line here, that's 4 months of inventory. North of 4 months, between 4 to 6 is what we call a balanced market. But as we approach 4 months of inventory, it's going to feel like a balanced market in a lot of areas. I put that red line there to show we're nowhere near that. It's going to be competitive in a lot of the markets if you're looking to buy and you look at the sell. And the level of competitiveness changes per price point. There's all sorts of different factors. So important to be working with somebody that has their finger on the pulse of what's happening now, not what happened. Forget about what happened a year ago, even what happened last month. It's so important to work with somebody that knows what's going on. Have an awesome day. Thanks for watching.